Imagine for a moment that your body is a house you have lived in for 70 years. The roof has weathered storms nobody else ever saw. The floors remember every footstep, the children's footsteps, the working day footsteps, the slow footsteps of recent winters. The windows have opened onto 10,000 mornings. And tonight I want to walk through that house with you, room by room. Because there are 5 rooms in this house that decide, quietly and daily, how long and how happily you will live within these walls. Most people visit only 1 or 2 of these rooms. By the end of our walk tonight, you will hold the key to all 5. Every house has a front porch. It is the place where the inside of the home first meets the outside world, where the day is greeted, where the threshold between rest and living is crossed. In the house of your body, the porch is your morning, and the way most of us cross that threshold has quietly changed over the years, hasn't it? There was a time when mornings had urgency, a job to reach, children to dress, a day that demanded you. Now, for many of us, the morning arrives softly and finds no one waiting for it. So we linger. We wake slowly, shuffle to the kitchen, reach for coffee before anything else, and sit in dim rooms with the curtains still drawn, wondering why the day feels heavy before it has even begun. Here is what I have learned in more than 2 decades of walking beside older adults. The porch must be tended first, and tending it requires only 2 small things: a full glass of water and a few minutes of morning light. Think of what happens inside your house overnight. For 7 or 8 hours, no water has come through the door. Your cells, your joints, your brain, every room in the house is gently thirsty, waiting. That first glass of water is not a health trick. It is simply opening the tap after a long night, letting the whole house know the day has begun. And the light, the light is the deeper magic. Deep inside your mind there lives a quiet clock, the one that governs when you feel alert, when you feel tired, when your digestion wakes, when your mood lifts or settles. That clock is set each morning by one thing above all others: natural light touching your eyes and your face. When we spend our mornings in dim rooms, the clock drifts, and when the clock drifts, sleep grows thin, energy thins with it, and the whole house runs slightly out of tune. Many find that 5 minutes on a porch, a balcony, or beside a bright window, with a glass of water in hand, before the coffee, before the news, begins to retune the entire day within a couple of weeks. It costs almost nothing. It asks almost nothing, but it tells your house every single morning: we are open, we are awake, we are still here. And yet, as important as the porch is, it is only the threshold, because a house that is opened but never walked through grows still in a different way. That brings us to the second room, the one with the most worn floorboards of all. Every old house has a hallway, the passage that connects all the other rooms. You cannot get from the kitchen to the bedroom, from the porch to the garden, without walking it. In the house of your body, that hallway is movement itself. The simple act of traveling through your own home, your own neighborhood, your own day, under your own power. Now, let me say something gently, because I know the word exercise carries heavy bags for many of us. It smells of gymnasiums and spandex, of younger people's games. So set that word aside. We are not talking about exercise. We are talking about the hallway. We are talking about flow. A stream that moves stays clear. A stream that stops grows stagnant, not because anything is wrong with the stream, but because stillness is simply not what water is for. Your body is much the same. It was built across a lifetime of motion, walking to work, carrying groceries, climbing stairs, tending yards. And when retirement comes, as it does to nearly all of us, the motion often drains away so gradually that we scarcely notice the water slowing. Have you ever noticed how a day spent mostly sitting feels different in your legs by evening? A stiffness, a heaviness, almost a reluctance in the knees that is the hallway going unused. The floorboards are fine. They are simply waiting to be walked on. Many doctors observe that the most protective movement for older adults is not intense or impressive. It is regular, a 15 or 20-minute walk, gentle stretches in the kitchen while the kettle heats, standing and sitting from a chair a few extra times, even seated movements for those whose legs ask for kindness. What matters is not the vigor, it is the dailiness of it, the quiet message sent through the hallway each day. This passage is still in use. Keep it open, keep it strong. Research suggests that regular gentle movement nourishes far more than the legs. It steadies balance, which steadies confidence. It feeds blood upward to the brain, which feeds memory and mood. It helps the heart without ever straining it. And perhaps most quietly of all, it protects something no one can measure on a chart: the feeling that your own body is still a place you can move through freely. I will tell you plainly, of all 5 rooms, this is the one people most often resist, and the one they most often thank themselves for later. But hold that thought, because before we talk about what the house takes in, we need to stand in the room where so much of life actually happens. The third room is the warmest in the house. And it may be the one you've been walking past without entering. If you are walking through this house with me, if these rooms feel familiar, if some part of you recognizes your own mornings and hallways in these words, I would be grateful if you'd type the word hope in the comments below. It tells me who is walking beside me tonight, and it helps this message find its way to another house that needs it. Think of the kitchen table of your life. Not the counter where you might stand and eat quickly, but the table, the place where meals were once events, where a pot of something warm meant people were gathering, where the smell of cooking was the smell of being home. In the house of your body, the kitchen is where the day's fuel arrives. And here is the quiet tragedy I have witnessed in more kitchens than I can count. Somewhere along the way, for many older adults, the table stops being used. Meals migrate to the counter, to the armchair, to standing over the sink. Eating becomes something done while watching, while worrying, while waiting, instead of something done on purpose. The third ritual is this: one meal a day, taken at a table slowly, with something real and warm on the plate. Not a diet, not a regimen, not deprivation dressed up as virtue. Just one meal. Breakfast is often easiest, where you sit down like a person who matters, because you do, and the plate holds oats or eggs, a piece of fruit, something colorful, something with steam rising from it. Why does this matter so deeply? Because how we eat reaches places that what we eat cannot. A calm, unhurried meal settles the nervous system, the same system that governs your heart's rhythm and your blood sugar's steadiness. Eating slowly lets the body register nourishment, which quietly protects against the spikes and crashes that so many of us feel as that heavy 3 o'clock fog. And sitting at your own table, tasting your own food, sends a message that no supplement can send. I am worth sitting down for. And here is something that may surprise you. Even the great research hospitals, in their plain clinical language, describe this same truth. Researchers at Harvard Medical School have long observed that consistent daily habits, not dramatic overhauls, are what most reliably accompany healthy aging. The Mayo Clinic has spoken gently for decades about how the rhythms of eating, sleeping, and connecting shape longevity more than most people ever realize. Doctors at the Cleveland Clinic often note that calm, regular meals support the heart almost as much as the food itself. And the National Institute on Aging has found again and again that the most protective force in later life is not any single intervention. It is consistency, small things, done daily, compounding quietly, the way pennies in a jar become something meaningful. Now, I hold no white coat and carry no prescription pad. What I carry is 20 years of watching real kitchens in real homes. And I will tell you, when the research and the lived truth point in the same direction, you and I are standing on solid ground. The porch, the hallway, the kitchen. 3 rooms tended. But a house can be well fed and well walked and still feel cold, can't it? A house needs warmth of another kind entirely, and the 4th room is where that warmth is made. Now let me step out of the poetry for exactly one moment, because you deserve one paragraph with no metaphor in it at all. Tomorrow morning, drink a full glass of water before your coffee and stand in daylight for 5 minutes. Sometime before noon, take a 10 or 15-minute walk or do gentle stretches in your kitchen if walking is hard. At one meal, sit at a table, eat something warm and real, and take 20 unhurried minutes over it. That is it. That is the entire assignment for tomorrow. If you did only those things and nothing else I say tonight, you would already be ahead of where you were this morning. Now, back to the house, because the 4th room is the one where I met someone who changed how I understand all of this. Old houses used to have a hearth, a fireplace at the center where the warmth lived, where people gathered without being asked, where the cold of the world was kept outside the walls. In the house of your body and your life, the hearth is connection, the daily warmth of one real human moment. And I want to tell you about a woman whose hearth had gone cold without her ever deciding it should. Her name was Dorothy, a 76-year-old retired librarian from a lakeside town in Minnesota. 40 years she had spent among books, resolving stories, recommending stories, living quietly inside other people's stories. As she liked to joke, she had a neat brick house with blue shutters, a cat named Pepper, and a reputation in her town for remembering everyone's name. But when I first came to know of Dorothy, through her nephew who worried about her, her house had gone quiet in a way that had nothing to do with peace. Her husband had been gone 6 years. Her closest friend had moved to Arizona. Her days had a sameness she couldn't name. Toast at the counter, the television murmuring like a tenant she didn't like but couldn't evict, the refrigerators hummed the loudest voice in the house. She told me once that she had gone 4 full days in January without speaking a single sentence aloud to another person. I heard my own voice on the phone with the pharmacy, she said, and it startled me. It sounded rusty. She was not depressed exactly. She was something many of us know but few of us name. She was cooling down, the way a hearth cools when no one adds wood. Gradually, politely. Without anyone noticing the temperature drop, the turning came on a Thursday, and it came, as it so often does, through something small and warm. Her neighbor, a young father named Marcus who had moved in the previous spring, knocked on her door holding 2 tomato seedlings and an embarrassed smile. His mother had told him Miss Dorothy used to have the finest garden on the street. Would she teach him what he was doing wrong? He was, he admitted, hopeless. Dorothy told me she stood in her doorway with those seedlings in her hands, soil still damp, smelling of green and earth in spring, and felt something in her chest she hadn't felt in years. It took her a moment to name it. She was needed. Somebody had knocked on her door not to check on her, but to ask something of her. That afternoon they stood in her backyard for an hour, her hands in the soil showing his hands what to do, her voice unrusted by the minute. And that evening, she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She called her sister in Duluth, just to talk, and they talked until the light left her kitchen window. One knock had relit the hearth. And here is what Dorothy did with it. She protected it the way you protect a small flame. She decided that every single day would contain one real human moment. A phone call, a chat over the fence, Tuesday coffee with Marcus and his seedlings, which became a standing appointment neither of them would miss. Within 2 months, her nephew told me, she sounded 5 years younger on the phone. Her garden came back, her laugh came back, the house was warm again. Researchers at the National Institute on Aging have observed that loneliness weighs on the aging body in ways comparable to more familiar health risks. That connection is not decoration, but something closer to medicine. And after 20 years of watching, I believe the deepest reason is this. We are not houses meant to stand dark. We are houses meant to have lights in the windows and voices inside. But there is one more room, and I must be honest with you. It is the room most people keep locked, not because it is frightening, but because it asks something of us that the busy years never trained us for. Shall we open it together? Every long lived-in house has one. The room at the end of the hall that slowly becomes storage, the door that sticks from disuse. In the house of your body, that room is the evening. The wind down, the place where the day is meant to be set down gently before sleep. Most of us were never taught to use this room. Our working lives ended each day in exhaustion, not in ritual. We simply collapsed into bed when the tasks ran out. And now, in later life, the evenings often stretch shapeless, the television glowing until late, the mind replaying old worries in the blue light, bedtime drifting later and later again, until sleep itself loses its footing. Perhaps you know the pattern, awake at 2, at 4, watching the ceiling, then dozing through a morning that no longer has a shape to wake into. If you know it, hear me warmly. You are not broken, and your sleep is not lost. The room is not gone, the door is only stuck, and doors unstick remarkably fast once someone leans on them daily. The 5th ritual is a closing ritual of gratitude and rest. It has 3 small parts, and together they form the deepest teaching I have to offer tonight. First, dim the lights an hour before bed, letting the house itself grow dusky, because your inner clock reads darkness the way it reads morning light, as instruction. Second, a warm, caffeine-free drink, taken slowly, perhaps in the same chair each night, so the body learns the signal. Third, and this is the heart of the locked room, name one thing, just one, that you were grateful for today. Say it aloud, or write it on a card, or hold it silently while the kettle cools. Then go to bed at the same hour as the night before. Why gratitude? Why does that one small naming matter so much? Because the mind, left unattended at bedtime, is a room that fills with whatever is lying around, and what is usually lying around is worry. Gratitude is not positive thinking. It is choosing the last thought of the day the way you would choose which lamp to leave burning. Research suggests that this simple nightly practice steadies mood and deepens sleep over time, and in my experience, it does something the researchers cannot chart. It teaches a person, night after night, that their own life still contains things worth naming. Many find that within a few weeks of this closing ritual, same hour, dim lights, warm cup, one gratitude, the 2 a.m. wakefulness begins to loosen its grip, not because of force, because the house has finally been given a rhythm, opened with light, walked with purpose, fed with care, warmed with people, and closed with thanks. A house run on that rhythm is a house at peace with itself, and that is the whole of it. 5 rooms, 1 house, tended daily in small ways by the only person who has ever truly lived there. You let me now put the keys in your hand. One by one. 5 acts of tending, each small enough to begin tonight, because a house is not saved by a renovation. It is saved by attention. The first act. Tomorrow morning, drink 1 full glass of water before anything else passes your lips. After a night of sleep, every room of your house is quietly thirsty, and this single glass opens the tap for the whole day. The second act. Step into morning light for at least 5 minutes. A porch, a window, a balcony, a garden step. Natural light sets the inner clock that governs your sleep, your mood, and your energy, and it sets it nowhere else but in the morning. The third act. Walk your hallway, 10 to 15 gentle minutes outdoors if you can, in your kitchen if you cannot, seated if your legs ask for kindness. Daily movement keeps your joints supple, your balance true, and your heart quietly strong. It is flow, not effort, that matters. The fourth act. Take one meal today at a table, slowly, with something warm and real on the plate, and no screen glowing beside it. How you eat steadies your heart, your blood sugar, and your sense of being cared for, including by yourself. The fifth act. Reach out to one person today. A call, a knock, even a short message. And tonight, dim the lights, name one gratitude, and go to bed at the same hour as yesterday. Connection keeps the hearth warm. Gratitude chooses the last lamp left burning, and a steady bedtime is the kindest promise you can keep with your own house. 5 acts, none of them heroic, all of them, together, quietly transformative. And if tonight you find yourself thinking, I am too far along for this to matter, then let me lean close and say the truest thing I know. It is never too late to tend the house you live in, not at 65. Not at 76 with a rusty voice and a cold hearth, ask Dorothy, not at 85. The house does not count your years, it only answers your attention. So let us finish our walk where we began, at the front door. Looking back somewhere along the way, many of us were handed a story about aging, that the house simply runs down, that the roof must leak, that the lights dim one by one and nothing can be done but watch. After more than 2 decades of walking through the houses of people in their 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond, I can tell you what I have actually seen. The houses that stay warm are not the ones that never weathered storms. They are the ones that were tended, a little, every day, by someone who decided the house was still worth caring for. Aging, I have come to believe, is not a decline that happens to you. It is a home you are still keeping. The porch still catches the morning light. The hallway still carries you. The kitchen still warms. The hearth still draws people close. And the room at the end of the hall, the quiet one, the grateful one, is waiting for you tonight, unlocked. The lamp already low. It is never too late. That is not a slogan. It is the refrain of every life I have been privileged to witness. Your house is not your burden. It is your oldest companion. And it is still listening, still ready to answer kindness with strength. If this walk through the house found a home in you, I would be honored if you'd give this video a like, subscribe, and ring the little bell so we can take more evening walks together. And please, leave a single word in the comments below. Just the word hope. It tells me whose hand was on the railing beside mine tonight, and it carries this message to another house whose lights need relighting. Thank you for opening your door to me this evening. May your mornings be full of light, your table warm, your hearth surrounded, and your sleep tonight deep and undisturbed. Tend your house gently. It has sheltered you your whole life, and it is never ever too late to shelter it back.